I live in Chicago. I have no garage, no driveway, and no home charger. And I just pre-ordered a Rivian R1S. I looked at other brands, but they just didn't make the cut. Let me tell you why. Hey, I'm Jay. I'm starting this channel to document what it's actually like to live with an EV in a big city, charging only on public networks with no at-home charging, with no shortcuts. Just real life with an electric vehicle here in Chicago. For the last few years, I've been driving a Mazda CX-5, as you see here. It's done its job, but gas prices are no joke. Maintenance are adding up, and I'm ready to move on to something cleaner, something newer, something maybe a little more fun. And that's how I landed on the Rivian R1S. But what is that journey? How did I actually land on the Rivian R1S? So one of the big things is I don't have an at-home charger, right? So a lot of people would suggest don't get an EV right now. The charging network isn't good. The prices are going to be too high. You're basically going to be paying the same amount at the end of the day. But again, after doing extensive research for the last few months, listening to hours and hours of YouTube videos, I come to the conclusion that I want to take this journey. And in all honesty, at least from the research that I was trying to do for Chicago and any big city, there aren't like actual guides on how good or how bad things are for people that don't have at-home chargers. There are some tips, there are some tricks that you can do, but there's nobody really documenting or telling you, okay, day-to-day life, tips on a day-to-day life, etc., etc. So that's why I'm deciding to go down this journey and talk about it. Talk about the pros, the cons, and all the challenges that I'm going to see from here on out. With that all in mind, I started looking at the different cars, and I literally looked at every EV. The biggest things that my wife and I talked about is it had to have at least 300-mile range per battery charge. It had to be a SUV, and it had to be all-wheel drive because we live in Chicago and we feel safer with an all-wheel drive and an SUV. We also looked at a sedan for a little bit, but in all honesty, we decided that an SUV is better for us and what we like to do and for the future that we would like to have. So just to give you context, it is just my wife and I and two pugs. So we have no kids at the moment, and we decided we still prefer an SUV over a sedan, again, because of the space and how we feel currently driving a Mazda CX-5. In all honesty, at the end of the day, we narrowed it down to either a Rivian R1S or the Kia EV9. And after seeing both of them in person, test driving both of them, playing around with them for anywhere between half an hour to an hour, and by playing around, I mean the touchscreen, all the infotainment and everything that each one had as a package, right? We decided to actually lean more toward the Rivian R1S, and the biggest reason was the infotainment. Since 90 to 100% of everything you're going to do is inside of the screen, we decided to go with the Rivian because it was snappier, it was more reactive. When you touched it, it moved, it reacted to your touch, versus the Kia. In all honesty, at the time of this video, June 15th or 16th of 2025, the Kia was just not responsive. It's like you swiped one way and it just like lagged like half a second or a second after, and it was just not responsive enough. And the biggest thing also is when we were playing around with the actual charging network to see, okay, we want to go on a road trip from Chicago to Colorado, and that's the same example I use for every car. And how quickly can it map it out, and how quickly does it give you actual chargers that are going to take you there? And again, that's where the Kia lagged behind. And for other reasons, we decided between these two, the interior, the exterior. Honestly, visually, I really like how these both look. But if the Kia EV9 infotainment was more responsive, if their actual map route planner was actually better, I would probably have gone with the Kia, in all honesty. I really like the Kia. I really like how it looks, how it drives. But ultimately, the Rivian just won out due to the full package, right? It just had a better infotainment, and that's what put it on top. Some of the things that it also comes with is we do want to go, more into nature, more into hiking and outdoors and actually adventuring, which is again one of the biggest things that Rivian does have, is that actual branding about nature, about going outdoors, about exploring. And ultimately, I think that's what won our heart over. Um, Obviously, at the end of the day, Rivian is nicer, has more luxurious look interior, and feel of it too. It feels more luxurious than the Kia EV9, but due to the price, Kia EV9 was a very compelling um, choice for us. It was gonna save us, let's say, somewhere between $200 to $300 a month, roughly, at the time of this video. But after driving it and the infotainment just was not there, and I was actually able to talk to Rivian over the last few months, and honestly, they worked with us. Special shout out to Christian over at the Chicago Rivian, who has helped me out a lot. And at the end of the day, we were able to negotiate to the price where I can get a really good price for this. So again, shout out to them for working with me for the last few months. And as of today, I ordered my Rivian. So I want to go over what my experience has been over the last basically 2, maybe 3 months of actually ordering a Rivian R1S. And the reason it took that long is just at the beginning of, let's say, March 2025, when I first actually started looking at buying an EV, there was no real incentive for me to buy one at such a high price, especially knowing that the EVs lose so much value in the first 1 to 2 years. But right now in June, it's currently June 17th, 2025, and they have an amazing deal. So right now they have this 12,500 on leasing offer, which you can also pair with this $5,000 one. So 17,500 off just that, with no down payments for leasing. And just to be clear, I did lease for 36 months. And then if you use the referral code, you get an additional $500. So basically $18,000 you'll get off or included overall, right? And then you can add, subtract features, and try to work with your dealer that's actually near you, your Rivian dealer, which is completely different than any other dealer I've ever worked with in terms of, your big manufacturers, Ford, Honda, Kias, etc. Tesla and Rivian and Lucid, you're only ones here in the US where you can just go online and order your car just with a click of a button without the haggle, right? One of the greatest things here is just being able to come online, build your car, as I will show you here, and I'll show you more or less my configuration. But again, your numbers based on where you're at, your zip code and everything is going to change. For example, while I was in Boston this other week, I realized when I was looking at a Rivian, I was like, wait, why is this so much cheaper? And Boston has really good incentives for EVs currently, where you save roughly 5 to 10,000 on the same build that I'm getting here in Chicago. But at the end of the day, since I live in Chicago, I'm just going to order here in Chicago. But overall, if you click on the offers here, it'll take you to this between R1S or R1T. You click it and it'll take you. So all of these here are already pre-built, you can say, to the ones that are going to give you the 12,500. And then once you actually start looking at the different features you want, so ultimately this is exactly what I went with here. So right here's what I went with, and then I just set it to lease low to high. If I can click it, yeah, there you go. So essentially, and then you work with your dealer to see, okay, how do the numbers work out for you? You can either do it over the phone, email, or in person. I just want to do a quick shout out to Christian over at the Rivian in Chicago. Throughout the whole process over the last 2 months, he has been so great to work with. whoever his boss is, honestly, give him a raise. He has been such a phenomenal person to work with, easygoing, and I recommend talking to him. So back to this. So one of the biggest things that you want to look at the cars, right? You want to look at what's gonna be for you, but you don't have to do what I build. Essentially, the reason why I decided to go with this specifically is I really wanted the opaque ceiling. So for those of you that don't know, like the Tesla doesn't have opaque ceiling, so you will feel all the radiation from the sun off of them. Rivian has a feature where you can actually have opaqueness that makes just the roof a little darker. And out of all, again, personally, I don't have one yet. I don't know how much difference there is, but from the people that I have heard online, the different reviews I've heard and read, people say that it does make a difference and it does help out in hot summer days. And as I am just in June, you know, beginning summer here in Chicago, I do want to have a little more protection, a little cooler. Hopefully the battery and the coolness will last longer inside of the vehicle. And when I go on road trips, I do have 2 pugs. So again, I want to keep them cool as best I can. So again, that's just what I went with. And at the end of the day, you look for what you want. But ultimately, I talked to Christian over the last few months. The first couple months, there weren't really any deals. And then in June, they came out with all these great deals that I just can't pass on. Knowing that also potentially at the end of the year, they're going to get rid of the 7,500 federal incentive to buy EVs or lease EVs. You know, right now it's a good time. Now, financially, it just depends on everybody, but right now it just felt like the right time for my wife and I to jump on board to get an EV overall. And then again, like I said, we landed on a Rivian R1S. So as of today, we put our down payment of $500 and just talked to the team over there. They reached out after I left the dealership and they told me that June 27th is when I will be taking delivery for this vehicle. So if you look at the calendar, that gives me 10 days. I do want to give a quick shout out to Kyle and Sky and all the team over at Out of Spec. Move myself out of the way. Out of Spec Reviews, and to Travis Ketchum. Both of them great videos. Highly recommended. Watch their stuff. Very informative, and I love their videos. So it's part of the reason why I decided to get a Rivian. Sorry, Travis, but I did use Kyle's referral code. So overall, what you can expect from me over the next few days, weeks, and months is as following. Over the next few days, I'm going to be talking to the Rivian team, talking about the scheduling, the financing. That hasn't started yet. Again, I just pre-ordered the Rivian today. I got access to my login and I started doing some of the actual sign up for it. But there was a hiccup on the website. The numbers weren't showing up correctly. So I talked to Christian. Christian worked it out. Within 20-30 minutes, he called me back. He said, hey, give it a day or two, things will be updated. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. But again, honestly, service with them has been fantastic. The team over at the service center where I will get the pickup for the Rivian, they reached out already. We scheduled that. So again, as long as things move forward correctly and smoothly, June 27th is when I should be picking up my Rivian. So that's gonna be the next few days. I'll post some other videos on how that's going and any other major updates that happen. The next few weeks and months, what I'm gonna be planning is, okay, how charging is around Chicago, how things are going in overall just in Chicago, street parking, you know, going to movie theaters, parking there, going to different malls, etc., and how much charging really costs living in the city and strictly living off of the grid, not at home charging whatsoever. So I'll be showing that. And like I said, my wife and I are planning to go on more road trips, going outdoors more. So showing you some of that, the route planner, and how things work out for us. Again, we're strictly just going to be living in the city and no at home charger and seeing how life will be. And that's part of the reason why we went with a lease versus an actual buy of the car, was to see is, can we actually make it work for the next 3 years? You know, is it actually viable for us to live off the grid like this, or do we actually need to wait until we have a house or an actual place here in the city or wherever that actually has a charger at home, that we can't live off, or live without. And that's the biggest thing, is that I want to show you guys what that's going to be like for me, and hopefully help you decide, whether you can live with a car that's electric, that you don't have an electric charger at home, and you can just live off of the network, or do you have to, is it a requirement to actually have one at home before you make the big jump? And hopefully I can help answer any questions, and I look forward to meeting the Rivian people and all the EVs out there on the road, and hopefully learn a few things from them as well. So that's mostly what I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks, as like I said, in a few months. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. But again, if you just go look at Travis and Kyle. Honestly, Kyle, he taught me a lot. Like he said, they go into the nitty gritty for nerds, and I love all the tech. I love all the nitty gritty. I'm the type of person that wants to go all the way down to the nitty gritty, to the finest thing, and fine tune it to my liking, so it's personalized specifically for me. And that's what I look forward to doing with this Rivian. So again, look forward to that. And if I have any updates over the next few weeks, I will definitely provide that. Thank you.